There are 86 ayes, 0 nays. The motion to excuse fails for lack of quorum.
Speaker.
Mr. Tindall, for a purpose.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
We take an oath at the beginning of session, and we collect per diem per day to be here on the House floor to do our job on behalf of almost 30 million Texans. Am I seeing that we don't have a quorum, and essentially it looks to me like the Democrats left the House floor and they're neglecting their duty that they swore an oath to do?
Mr. Tindall, that's not a proper parliamentary inquiry. Not every person who left the floor is part of a party or not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is the Texas State House, where the legislative session was ending within the hour and Republicans were trying to pass SB 7, their own voter suppression bill that somehow managed to dwarf that of even Georgia or Florida. And at the 11th hour, literally, Democrats in the State House together walked out, depriving the chamber of the quorum needed to pass legislation, thereby killing the bill. And before I say anything else, I'll say this. This is how you fight. This is how you pull out every tool possible to protect our democracy. This is how you figure out a way to make it work. No excuses, no complaining, no apologizing. They were unified, they were resourceful, and they got it done. Now, with that said, while we dodged one bullet, already Texas's Governor Greg Abbott has promised to resurrect this bill in a special legislative session. He tweeted, "Election integrity and bail reform were emergency items for this legislative session. They still must pass. They will be added to the special session agenda. Legislators will be expected to have worked out the details when they arrive at the Capitol for the special session." Meaning that while we dodged a bullet, the fight certainly isn't over. And by the way, as if that wasn't bad enough, Abbott even went a step further, tweeting, "I will veto Article 10 of the budget passed by the legislature. Article 10 funds the legislative branch. No pay for those who abandon their responsibilities. Stay tuned." In other words, he didn't get his voter suppression bill, so he's withholding pay not only from the entire legislature, but the staff and aides who rely on it to survive. Because to their core, Republicans despise democracy. And by the way, this is a fight worth having, because SB 7 was one of, if not the most restrictive voter suppression bills in the country. It would have banned after-hours voting, which was overwhelmingly used by metropolitan areas that voted Democratic, like Harris County. It would have prohibited drop boxes and drive-through voting centers, which again were overwhelmingly used by Democratic strongholds like Harris County. It would have limited Sunday early voting to between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m., a direct assault against efforts like Souls to the Polls, where Black and Latino communities would vote immediately after church and well before 1 p.m. It would have made it illegal to send unsolicited vote-by-mail applications to people and would have barred counties from helping facilitate the distribution of unsolicited ballot requests, meaning they couldn't work with any get-out-the-vote groups. Absentee ballots would have required providing a driver's license number or the last 4 digits of a social security number on both the ballot request and the return envelope containing the ballot, meaning that basically no one would want to do it, considering no one wants to put their social security number on that envelope. And finally, it would have imposed a $1,000 a day fine on local election officials who don't follow specific procedures to update the voter rolls, and criminal penalties on election workers who obstruct partisan poll watchers. Poll watchers, by the way, whose very presence would serve as an intimidation factor to those who want to exercise their rights to vote. It is the single most anti-democratic bill in the United States, and its passage would have ensured the end of democratic rule in the state, if not paved the way for it across the country. Now, as for the video clip, Republican State Representative Tinderholt tries to stand up and raise a point of order, accusing Democrats of violating their oaths of office by walking out of the chamber. As if that's the violation of oath here. As if depriving Republicans of quorum so they wouldn't be able to egregiously undermine democracy is the real problem. Not blocking drop boxes and early voting and souls to the polls and kowtowing to partisan poll watchers, intimidating voters, and penalizing poll workers. No, all of that's totally fine. It's blocking those things that should be punished. Got it. So at this point, 2 things need to happen. First, Texas Democrats need to continue fighting like they have, and to continue using every tool at their disposal to make sure that these anti-democratic efforts by the right don't come to pass. And second, national Democrats need to step up and eliminate the filibuster to pass H.R. 1 so that we have federal protections that would protect against bills like this one in Texas, along with similar ones in Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, Iowa, Montana, Arizona, and more. I know that these Democratic holdouts like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema like to think that defending the filibuster is somehow protecting the sanctity of our governmental institutions, but that ship has sailed. There's nothing left to protect. The Republicans have just turbocharged their efforts to undermine it. So at this point, the choice is binary. Either you take active steps to counter these anti-democratic efforts put forward by Republicans, or you do nothing and allow these voter suppression bills to pass with no pushback. That's it. Those are the choices. The reality of the situation right now is that the GOP has already decided that a return to normalcy won't be possible. They've already decided that they're not interested in operating within the confines of a democracy. So you can either be with them or against them, but you can't be both. So again, thank you to Texas's Democratic state legislators for not only figuring out how to fight back against this disgusting power grab by Republicans, but showing the rest of the country that we don't have to take this lying down, that we don't have to wait for the courts to save us, or wait for federal legislation to save us, or wait for Republicans to start caring about democracy again. We need to make sure that they don't even get that far, and that's exactly what Texas Democrats did in response to SB 7. To see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And for a deeper dive, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I discuss the week's top stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Vice President Kamala Harris, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, Katie Porter, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.